Hi, Misha here, and recently I talked about converting my SA85M into an AKM 63. And in that video, right as we were recording it, an interesting Hungarian FEG part came in to Arms of America. And while a lot of the videos on this channel are kind of large, sweeping historical looks, sometimes it's just neat to zero in for a few minutes on something weird and rare and cool. So we're going to talk about the Hungarian plastic, not polymer, true plastic, blue-gray stock. What an interesting critter. And why you don't see them much today, and why they came to be at all. So this one came in. I did get it one ordered in time before they sold out. They sold out very quickly. And so I thought I would share it with you fine folks today. As always, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. Check out the Patreon. And let's see how much we can find to dive into with this guy. FEG in Hungary began manufacturing the original milled AK-55 in 1959, with the run ending in 1963. They mostly manufactured the gun in-house, but they outsourced the receivers and the wood furniture. So when it came time to design their variant of the AKM, adopted in Russia in 1959, spread throughout the Warsaw Pact in the 1960s, they wanted to construct it totally in-house at FEG. They wanted it to be lighter, cheaper, easier to mass produce. And of course their version here is very, very similar, really with the changes just being in the furniture and small details we've talked about before. Also, they hung on to the muzzle nut longer. But as you notice, this one has wood. And most AKM 63s you see have wood. But that wasn't the plan. This was the original plan. Interesting stock. The idea, they could mold this plastic in-house, and it would definitely save weight. This is incredibly lightweight, and it is hollow. And it's all plastic except for the metal butt plate. And an interesting note about this plastic: it's not military grade reinforced polymer. This is true plastic. In fact, it's the same kind of material that at the time block communist era cantinas, essentially cafeterias, made lunch trays out of, and other things, plates, cutlery, and if it was plastic, for kids and adults. But yeah, this was basically food grade plastic. And as you would imagine, it did not hold up well at all. In fact, trials showed that this was just not going to work. So already by 1964, it was being substituted with wood, and I don't know if any AKM 63s actually got out with this stock on them. Probably some did, but I think most all had them replaced. And by that time, the end of 64, production was over. It was a failed experiment. Part of it was they just didn't have the right plastic. Part of it was they needed the durability and the heft of wood. But it was an interesting experiment because at the time, really no one else was doing plastic AK furniture. Think about it. If this was plastic, we have no wood on this thing, metal. And of course, the grips, they would have been plastic too. But these stocks are found alone. Why is that? Well, while the stocks were not useful to Hungary, the grips were. Because in 1965, the AMD 65 was adopted for paratroopers and tank crews. And while you can find AMD 65s with wood grips, it's not ideal for use where it could get snagged or broke. And while this stock was not ideal as a buttstock, a recoil absorbing thing, as a pistol grip, this type of plastic was great. It was flexible, a little more comfortable. It could be molded in more of a spherical shape, and it was lighter weight and faster to produce. So while the stocks were literally shelved, many of them not ever used or even not completed, the grips were recycled for the AMD 65. Now some of the early ones would be kind of this blue-gray. Later ones, though, would kind of go to more of a gray, even a gray-green, or just jet black, because production of the grips would continue. As far as I know, all of the grips ended up being used for the AMD 65. Of course, they would still fit the AKM 63 as well. But the stocks, they were really canceled before anything, meaning they were just kind of put up in storage, incomplete, really. In fact, FEG workers were allowed to take them home if for whatever reason they wanted to. Then again, they also let them take scrap wood home to burn in their fireplaces because, well, the era of communism. And so today in America, these stocks are a bit of a curiosity. And it was really neat that AOA turned up a relatively large number, about 500, and they sold out in about 30 minutes. So this is the stock that I received, essentially in new condition with maybe a few minor scuffs. And it did come with some metal hardware. First we get the screws. It has a short screw, pretty standard, although it does have machine threads for polymer, not the wider ones you'd find for wood. Now the long screw is more interesting. It actually has an end piece for things to butt up so it can screw into itself and kind of clamp down, relieving stress on the stock. As you can see here, the head of the screw looks untouched. It's kind of got a matte finish to it. The butt plate was not installed when these shipped. It was also wrapped, but I went ahead and popped it on. They said, hey, you could use screws if you wanted. I just popped it on. It actually has, if you see divots here, two little internal brackets to give strength in the middle. And then there's two more brackets, one on each end, to kind of spread the plastic out. What I did, because this was just not going to pop straight on, I actually heated up the plastic with a hairdryer. And then I kind of shimmied this on. It was still a tight fit, but I did not actually have to do any sanding or otherwise fitting. Just heated the plastic up enough and kind of squeezed it out because it was kind of mushed in, laying flat enough to this would sit. And then once the plate went in, it spread it out and kind of gives it strength. After I got it in there to cool the plastic off, I actually put it in the freezer inside a bag for a minute just to cool it off and kind of bind these together, and now it is on here tight enough. I don't feel like I need screws. Certainly not taking it into combat at any rate. That's our butt plate. Obviously no hole for a cleaning kit. Unfortunately, all the grips were separated from these as they were used on guns for decades. It's actually getting quite hard to find AMD 65 grips. Something that was once upon a time very, very common. Neat grips though. They have these kind of end caps to cover them up. They're just kind of held on with friction and little pegs too. An interesting effort to make an inexpensive stock set and to really save weight on the gun. And it almost could have worked if they had just had the right plastic, the right polymer. Here's an example of, how so. Appearing a few years after the Hungarian AKM-63, we have the East German, the DDR, MPI KM. MPI basically a variant of submachine gun in its name, KM for modernized Kalashnikov. Incidentally, this kit, because there are no pre-ban or even post-ban imports of these, this kit actually came from Arms of America many, many years ago, and I intentionally kind of wanted one with some honest, been there, done that wear and blued finish, but I digress. The reason I brought it out tonight is the buttstock. This too is a hollow plastic, but it is made of a different material, although not by a whole lot. It does also have some texturing in these bumps here, and it does have a solid butt plate, no trapdoor for a cleaning kit. The Germans had different ideas for cleaning kits, but this butt plate is held on by screws, sling swivel, and of course it does have a plastic pistol grip. Also has a plastic upper handguard, something the Hungarians didn't really try because they were doing this style. Now, originally, it also had a plastic lower handguard, and that was where the Germans kind of ran into trouble. They found out quite quickly that this plastic, while it was fine for the upper and pistol grip, it would burn during significant rapid fire. So, quite quickly, the plastic lower was replaced by, I think it's kind of a beechwood. Eventually, this would be replaced by a Bakelite, what we think of as Bakelite, really AG4 lower. So they would go to an all-synthetic, but they had to kind of substitute one piece of wood for a few years until the 70s. Same notion, though, of a lightweight, easy-to-produce, non-wood using gun. And I will say, the MPI KM is really the lightest AK with still a 16-inch barrel. I don't know if I would say ever, although I'm tempted to, but certainly at that time period. This is an exceedingly lightweight gun. And a lot of it has to do with the furniture. So if you were to put one of these stocks on a gun, I would suspect it would shoot and feel much like a German. But that said, I will probably leave the wood stock on my gun here. I went to all the trouble of getting it together. It is the classic look. This was a failed experiment, although a cool one. And although I'm not a big collector of parts unless I'm doing a build, once in a while, once in a blue moon, pun intended, something like this comes along, and I just kind of want to put it in the library of parts just to study, because it is cool. Different. And FEG was known for pushing things ahead. And it wasn't a complete failure, because again, if it wasn't for this stock, this method, we wouldn't have ended up probably with the plastic AMD 65 pistol grips that worked oh so well. And stayed in service, really, even to this day. So what do you think? Is this something that would have interested you? Or maybe it's just something that true AK collector nerds get excited about. I could understand that. I do like the fact that it's basically communist dishware. At least the plastic. But yeah, very specific video today, but I thought it was worth it. I hope you did too. Let me know what you think. As always, if you could, like, share, and subscribe. And if you're interested in Hungarian guns, check out many of our past videos. And hey, if you'd like to see the East German build go back out to the range, let us know. We could consider packing it up for the next range trip or two. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.